Give me a month to decide if you're really the one, my fiancé said. I answered, no rush, take your time. What happened next left him begging for a second chance. Let me paint you the picture of how my world got flipped upside down on what started as just another Tuesday morning. I'm sitting at my desk in downtown Chicago, my coffee getting cold while I'm running numbers for a client portfolio, when my phone buzzes with a text from Adam. 6 years we've been together. 8 months engaged with our fall wedding already booked at this gorgeous venue in Naperville. I'm thinking it's probably him asking what I want for dinner or complaining about a difficult client from his freelance work again. Instead, I read the words that would change everything. Natalie, I need a month to evaluate whether you're really worth committing my entire life to. This is important to me. Just like that. No context, no warning, nothing. I stared at that message for maybe 15 minutes, reading it over and over, waiting for the follow-up text that would explain this was some kind of joke or mistake. It never came. My first instinct was to call him immediately to ask what the hell was going on, but something in my gut told me to pause. So I typed back something simple. Take all the time you need, Adam. I understand. Then I set my phone down and tried to focus on work, but my mind was spinning. 6 years together, we talked about kids, picked out baby names, argued about whether we'd stay in the city or move to the suburbs. 8 months ago, I'd said yes when he proposed at Navy Pier during the fireworks show, his whole family watching through FaceTime because they lived in Phoenix. Now suddenly, he needed to evaluate whether I was worth his life. By the way, if you're watching this story unfold, I'm curious. Drop a comment and let me know what city you're tuning in from. I love knowing how far these stories travel. The more I sat with it, the more something didn't feel right. This wasn't Adam having cold feet or pre-wedding jitters. This felt calculated, like someone had coached him on exactly what to say. By lunch, instead of being heartbroken or angry, I found myself getting curious about something I'd never really examined before: our finances. See, I'm a financial analyst by trade, but when it came to our personal situation, I'd been running on autopilot for years, just handling things to keep the peace. Adam lived in my downtown condo and paid me $400 a month, which didn't even cover the HOA fees, let alone his portion of the mortgage. He was on my health insurance through my company because freelance graphic design didn't come with benefits. The car he drove every day, lease was in my name because his credit was shot from defaulting on student loans. His credit cards were maxed out from buying equipment and taking trips to find inspiration. So I'd added him as an authorized user on mine for emergencies that somehow happened 3 times a week. I started doing the math and it was staggering. I was essentially subsidizing another adult's entire lifestyle while he contributed the bare minimum and acted like he was doing me a favor. The man who needed a month to decide if I was worth his life had been living off my financial stability for years without ever acknowledging it. That realization hit me like cold water. This wasn't about love or compatibility or whether we were right for each other. This was about him treating me like a resource rather than a partner. While I'd been quietly handling everything to avoid drama and keep our relationship smooth, he'd gotten so comfortable with the arrangement that he felt entitled to put me on probation. So I did what any good analyst would do. I started making calls. First, I called Marcus, my property manager, and asked about procedures for removing someone who wasn't on the lease. Professional conversation, all business. Then I called my insurance company and inquired about removing a domestic partner from my plan. Turns out it qualified as a life event, so I could do it immediately. Finally, I logged into my credit card accounts and reviewed all the shared expenses from the past year: every dinner out, every shopping trip, every weekend getaway. I'd been paying for everything while telling myself it was because I made more money and wanted to be generous. But generosity requires gratitude. And looking back, I couldn't remember the last time Adam had actually thanked me for anything. He just expected it. When I got home that evening, Adam was already packing a bag. He'd left a note on the kitchen counter saying he needed space and would be staying with his friend Tyler for a while. No explanation about the text, no conversation about what was really going on, just him grabbing clothes and toiletries like he was heading out for a normal weekend trip. I think this is best for both of us right now, he said without making eye contact. I need to figure things out. I watched him pack and didn't say a word. Part of me wanted to ask questions, to fight for answers, to beg him to stay and work through whatever this was. But a bigger part of me was curious to see how long his evaluation would last once he realized that his financial safety net was about to disappear. He kissed my forehead on his way out like nothing had changed. Like he wasn't walking away from 6 years together to go figure out if I was good enough for him. The door clicked shut and I was alone in the condo we'd shared for 4 years, surrounded by all the furniture I'd bought and all the pictures of our life together. That's when I made the calls that would change everything. Wednesday morning is when everything I'd set in motion the day before came crashing down on Adam's world like a house of cards. I was in my office early, reviewing quarterly reports when my phone started buzzing like an angry wasp. Text after text after text. By the time I actually looked at it, there were 52 messages and 23 missed calls, all from Adam. The first few texts were confused. Nat, my card got declined at Starbucks. Can you check if there's an issue? Then they got progressively more frantic. The gas station declined my card too. What's going on? By message 25, he'd figured it out. You removed me from your credit cards. Are you serious right now? And by message 45, he was in full panic mode. Natalie, I can't buy groceries. I can't get gas. You can't just do this to me. I set the phone aside and went back to my reports. He wanted a month to evaluate whether I was worth his life, while he was about to get a real clear picture of what life looked like without my financial support. Around 10 that morning, my office phone rang. It was Cameron, Adam's younger brother, and he was furious. "Natalie, what the hell is wrong with you? You can't just cut Adam off like this. This is financial abuse." I had to laugh at that one. "Cameron, let me explain something to you. Financial abuse is when you control someone's access to their own money. I removed Adam as an authorized user on my credit cards because we're no longer together. He has his own bank account, his own business, and he's a 33-year-old man with a degree. He can support himself. But he's been relying on you for years," he shot back. "You can't just change the rules overnight." "I didn't change any rules, Cameron. Adam did when he decided he needed to evaluate whether I'm worth his time. Well, now he can evaluate what his life looks like funding himself." The conversation went downhill from there, with Cameron calling me everything but a decent human being before hanging up on me. 20 minutes later, my assistant knocked on my door. "Natalie, there's a woman online too claiming to be your future mother-in-law. She says it's urgent." Elaine, Adam's mom, was somehow even more worked up than Cameron had been. "Natalie, honey, I don't know what's gotten into you, but you need to fix this situation with Adam right now. He called me crying, saying you've cut off all his cards and he can't even buy food." I took a deep breath and used my most professional voice. "Elaine, Adam and I are taking a break while he evaluates our relationship. Since we're not together right now, I thought it made sense to separate our finances. He's got his own income from his freelance work and his own credit cards. But those cards are maxed out, Natalie. You know that. Then maybe he should focus on paying them down instead of evaluating whether I'm good enough for him." There was a long pause. "You're being cruel, Natalie. This isn't like you." "What's not like me," Elaine, "is standing up for myself, but I'm learning." After I hung up, it hit me how deep this whole thing really went. It wasn't just Adam who'd gotten comfortable with my financial support. His whole family had been benefiting from it for years. Cameron's DUI lawyer when he got in trouble last year. Elaine's help with medical bills when her insurance didn't cover everything. Adam's cousin's wedding gift that I'd written the check for. They'd all gotten used to Natalie the ATM, and now they were panicking because their access had been cut off. If you're still with me through this mess, hit that like button because this is where things really took a turn. Around lunch, my friend Lauren called with information that confirmed what I'd already started to suspect. "Hey girl, I was at that new place in Wicker Park last night, and I saw Adam there with some woman. They looked pretty cozy, if you know what I mean. Thought you should know." I thanked Lauren and hung up, but I wasn't surprised. See, there was something I hadn't mentioned to anyone yet. A few weeks ago, I'd been using Adam's iPad to look up a recipe and his text messages had popped up on the screen. Turns out, when you share an Apple ID, everything syncs, including dating app notifications. He'd been active on 3 different apps for the past 4 months, right up until a week before he proposed. I'd scrolled through enough conversations to see the pattern. He was shopping around, keeping his options open while keeping me as his safety net. The woman Lauren saw him with was probably Jessica, based on the messages I'd seen. Young marketing manager with her own place, seemed eager to impress, probably had no idea she was being auditioned as my replacement. The beautiful thing about being a financial analyst is that you learn to look at data objectively without letting emotions cloud your judgment, and the data was crystal clear. Adam hadn't gotten cold feet about marriage, he'd gotten greedy. He wanted to see if he could upgrade while keeping all the financial benefits I provided as a backup plan. His family's reaction proved they were all in on it. Whether consciously or not, they'd built their expectations around my generosity. And now that the well had dried up, they were scrambling to shame me back into compliance. But here's what they didn't understand about me. I don't respond well to manipulation, never have. And once I see the game being played, I don't just quit playing. I flip the board over. My phone was still buzzing with increasingly desperate messages from Adam. The last one read, "Natalie, please. Can we just talk? I'm scared." For the first time since this whole thing started, I actually felt something, not love, not anger, but something colder. Disappointment maybe, or clarity. I typed back, "You wanted space to evaluate. Take all the space you need." Then I turned off my phone and got back to work. Thursday morning brought the confrontation I'd been expecting, though not quite in the way I'd imagined it would happen. I was walking back from my lunch meeting when I spotted him in the lobby of my office building. Adam was sitting in one of those modern chairs near the elevator bank, and he looked rough, really rough. His hair was unwashed, stubble covering his usually clean-shaven face. He was wearing the same clothes I'd seen him in 2 days ago, and his eyes had that desperate look of someone who hadn't slept. When he saw me, he jumped up and practically ran over. "Natalie, please. We need to talk. Just 20 minutes. That's all I'm asking." The security guard was watching us, probably wondering if he needed to intervene. So I nodded toward the coffee shop across the street. We walked over in silence, and I could feel the desperation radiating off him like heat. Once we sat down, he immediately launched into this rehearsed speech about how he'd made a mistake, how he'd been confused and scared about marriage, how he wanted to work things out. I let him talk for about 5 minutes before I cut him off. "Adam, stop. I know about the dating apps." His face went white, completely drained of color. "Natalie, I can explain. 4 months. Adam, you've been active on Bumble, Hinge, and Tinder for 4 months. While we were engaged, while we were planning our wedding. He started trying to explain then. These fumbling excuses that probably would have worked on me a year ago. It wasn't serious, Natalie. I wasn't meeting anyone. I was just looking. You were shopping, I said. And this whole evaluation thing, this was Tyler's idea, wasn't it? The way his shoulders slumped told me everything I needed to know. He said it would shake things up, that it would make you fight for me, show me how much you really cared. I almost laughed. So let me get this straight. You and your friend cooked up a scheme to put our entire relationship on trial while you secretly auditioned my replacement. And now you're surprised that I'm not playing along? It wasn't supposed to go like this, he whispered. I was supposed to come back and you were supposed to… I was supposed to beg. I was supposed to promise you the world and prove that I couldn't live without you. And then you'd graciously decide I was worth keeping around. He nodded, still unable to meet my eyes. Adam, I realize how stupid it sounds now, but I love you. I want to marry you. Can't we just forget this happened? I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out the envelope I'd been carrying around since yesterday. This is a 30-day notice to vacate. You need to be out of my condo by the end of the month. His jaw dropped. Natalie, you can't be serious. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore, Adam. You wanted to evaluate whether I'm worth your life. Well, I've done my own evaluation and I've decided you're not worth mine. I stood up and walked away, leaving him sitting there with the eviction notice in his hands. I didn't look back, but I could hear him calling my name from the coffee shop. The rest of Thursday was a circus. My phone was blowing up with texts from his family, all variations of how could you do this to him and his family, Natalie. But the most telling one came from Cameron. He's moving his stuff out tonight. I hope you're happy. Around 7 that evening, I watched from my window as Adam and Tyler made trip after trip from my building to Tyler's beat-up Honda, loading up boxes and suitcases. It was chaotic and rushed, like he was fleeing a natural disaster. My neighbor, Mrs. Chen, stopped by to ask if everything was okay, and I told her we'd broken up. Oh, honey, she said, I'm sorry, but honestly that boy never seemed grateful for anything you did for him. Out of the mouths of 70-year-old neighbors, right? Friday morning, I was getting ready for work when I heard a commotion in the hallway. Through my peephole, I could see Adam, Cameron, and Elaine struggling with boxes and a dolly. They had a U-Haul truck double parked outside and they were trying to move everything back in. I opened the door and Cameron immediately got aggressive. Natalie, just let us move his stuff back in. He's got nowhere else to go. He can't move out and then move back in, I said calmly. That's not how eviction notices work. He's got 30 days from yesterday to find a new place. This is insane. Elaine chimed in. Natalie, he's your fiancé. No, he's not. He's my ex-fiancé who decided he needed to evaluate whether I was worth his time. Well, the evaluation is over. The best part of all this I found out later from Lauren, who heard it from her boyfriend, who heard it from Tyler, was that Adam's date with Jessica on Wednesday night had been a complete disaster. Apparently, when the check came at dinner, Jessica had suggested they split it. Adam had sat there in shock because he literally didn't know how to respond. He'd gotten so used to me paying for everything that the concept of going Dutch was foreign to him. When he tried to explain that he didn't have any money, Jessica had gotten suspicious and started asking questions. Once she figured out that he was essentially testing her as a replacement for his financially stable fiancé, she'd paid her half of the bill and walked out. No second date, no backup plan, no replacement, Natalie waiting in the wings. I learned later that Jessica had actually texted her friends and said something like, "Ladies, I just dodged the biggest bullet of my life. This guy is a complete leech." By Friday afternoon, Adam was officially homeless and single, with maxed out credit cards and a freelance business that barely covered his phone bill. The man who needed a month to decide if I was worth committing his life to had lost everything in less than a week. And the crazy part, I felt absolutely nothing. No guilt, no regret, no second thoughts. Just relief that I'd finally seen the situation clearly. The final act of this whole drama played out exactly 1 week later, and it was both pathetic and revealing in ways I hadn't expected. I was coming home from my Pilates class on a Thursday evening when I found Adam waiting by my building entrance. But this wasn't the disheveled, desperate man I'd seen the week before. He'd clearly put effort into his appearance. Hair styled, clean-shaven, wearing that navy suit I'd bought him for his cousin's wedding. He looked like the man I'd fallen in love with 6 years ago, and I could tell that was exactly the point. Natalie, please just hear me out. 5 minutes. Against my better judgment, I let him into the lobby. We sat on the same chairs where he'd packed his life into boxes just a week ago, and he launched into what was obviously a carefully prepared speech. I've been doing a lot of thinking this week, and I realize I made the biggest mistake of my life. I want to fix this. I'll go to therapy, I'll get a real job, I'll cut off Tyler if that's what it takes. Natalie, I love you and I want to marry you. It was a good performance, I'll give him that, but I'd learned to look past the surface. Adam, why do you want to marry me? Because I love you, obviously. No, I mean really, what is it about me specifically that makes you want to spend your life with me? He faltered for a second, then gave me this generic answer about how I was kind and stable and we had history together. So I pressed harder. If I lost my job tomorrow and had to move back in with my parents in Indianapolis, would you still want to marry me? The silence stretched out for almost a minute. Finally, he said, Natalie, that's not fair. That's not a realistic scenario. It's a simple question, Adam. If I couldn't provide for you financially, would you still want to be with me? Natalie, I can't afford to live in Chicago on my own. The rent alone would take everything I make, and I still have my credit cards to pay off. I need. He stopped, realizing what he just admitted. You need what, Adam? I need stability. I need security. Natalie, you know I've never been good with money? And there it was. The truth. Finally. Adam, let me tell you something that might help you understand what really happened here. You didn't lose me this week. You lost me 4 months ago when you downloaded those dating apps and started shopping for my replacement. This week, you just lost your funding. His face crumpled. Natalie, that's not true. I do love you. Maybe you do in your own way. But what you love about me isn't me. It's what I provide. The condo, the insurance, the credit cards, the safety net. You love my stability more than you love my company. He tried a few more angles after that. Could he stay in the condo until he found his own place? Would I co-sign an apartment for him? Absolutely not. Could he borrow some money to get back on his feet? Not a chance. Each rejection hit him like a physical blow, and I watched him cycle through anger, bargaining, and finally desperation. Natalie, please. I'm begging you. I have nowhere to go. You have your family, you have your business, you have the same resources every other adult has to figure out their life. But I can't do this alone. Then you probably should have thought about that before you decided to evaluate whether I was worth your time. That was the last conversation we had face to face. But it wasn't the end of the story. About a week later, Adam launched what I can only describe as a social media smear campaign. Facebook posts about financial abuse, Instagram stories about how women use money to control men, tweets about toxic relationships. He painted himself as the victim of a manipulative partner who trapped him financially and then abandoned him when he tried to stand up for himself. It was actually pretty clever the way he spun it. He never mentioned the dating apps or the evaluation period or the fact that he'd been living off my income for years while contributing almost nothing. Just poor Adam, struggling to escape an abusive relationship with a controlling woman who'd cut off his access to money out of spite. For about 48 hours it worked. He got sympathy from mutual friends, supportive comments from people who didn't know the full story, even a few offers of help from strangers who believed his narrative. Then my cousin Rachel got involved. Rachel's a lawyer and she doesn't mess around when someone comes after her family. She'd been following Adam's posts with increasing irritation and she'd finally had enough. Rachel made her own Facebook post and it was surgical. She included screenshots of Adam's dating profiles from the past 4 months, screenshots of text messages where Adam had bragged to Tyler about how easy it was to get me to pay for things, screenshots of bank statements showing the thousands of dollars I'd spent supporting someone who was actively looking for my replacement. She laid out the timeline methodically, the months of dating app activity, the evaluation scheme, the desperate scrambling when the money got cut off, and then she ended with this line that just destroyed Adam's whole narrative. This isn't financial abuse, this is financial independence. Every adult should try it. The post went viral in our social circle. Adam's sob story crumbled overnight as people started asking questions he couldn't answer. Why had he been on dating apps while engaged? Why hadn't he just broken up with Natalie instead of putting her on trial? How exactly was it abuse for someone to stop paying your bills when you were no longer together? The sympathy evaporated and Adam deleted all his social media accounts within a week. 3 weeks after our final conversation, I ran into Lauren at our usual coffee place and she updated me on the aftermath. Adam was living with his mother, Elaine, in a cramped apartment in Aurora, working extra freelance gigs to help cover Elaine's bills since he could no longer rely on Natalie-funded family support. Cameron had stopped speaking to him after Adam had asked him for money, and Tyler had distanced himself once he realized the manipulation scheme had backfired spectacularly. Meanwhile, I was doing better than I had in years. I'd started going to the gym regularly, something I'd let slide during the relationship because Adam always wanted to do other things on weekends. I'd met someone there, actually, Marcus, a pediatrician who insisted on paying for his own coffee when we went out, who had his own place and his own car and his own life that didn't require my financial support to function. We'd been on 5 dates and each time he'd either paid his share or covered the whole check himself. It was refreshing in a way I hadn't realized I'd been missing. But more than the new relationship, more than the extra money in my account each month, what I'd gained was clarity about what I actually wanted in a partner. I wanted someone who saw me as a person, not a provider, someone who contributed to our life together instead of just consuming from it. Someone who respected me enough to be honest about their feelings instead of playing manipulation games. The whole experience taught me that love without respect isn't really love at all. It's just convenience dressed up in romantic language. Adam had been convenient for me too, in his own way. It was easier to pay for everything than to deal with the drama of splitting expenses. But convenience isn't a foundation for a marriage. Respect is, trust is, partnership is. I never saw Adam again after that night in my building lobby, and I never wanted to. He'd shown me exactly who he was and what I meant to him, and I'd finally listened. Sometimes the best thing someone can do for you is give you permission to see them clearly. Adam's evaluation period had done exactly that, just not in the way he'd intended. And if this story resonated with you even a little bit, consider hitting that subscribe button. I've got more stories about life, love, and learning to stand up for yourself coming your way, because at the end of the day, we all deserve partners who value us for who we are, not what we can provide. The truth is, I should thank Adam for that text message. Without it, I might have spent years, maybe decades, funding someone else's life while they kept one foot out the door, always looking for something better. Instead, I got my freedom, my self-respect, and a crystal clear understanding of my own worth. And that's worth more than any relationship built on a foundation of financial dependence and emotional manipulation.